Hi, welcome to History Talks. In this episode, we continue our series on ancient Rome, and we will be discussing the Roman Civil War that pitted Caesar against the Senate and Pompey. So, Sebastian, what led to this conflict?
You see, Caesar was feared by the Senate over his great power. Now, there were some attempts at a resolution of this conflict, but most of the proposals included forcing Caesar and Pompey to give up a lot of their legions, which obviously didn't go down well. And after enough failed negotiations, Caesar eventually crossed the Rubicon into the Italian town of Rimini, where he declared the Roman Civil War.
So, crossing the Rubicon, did that inspire the modern saying, which means the passing the point of no return?
Yes. At first, Caesar seemed to have some disadvantage. He only had one legion that he crossed with compared to Pompey and the Senate, who had 10. Though after it had been made clear to the opposite side how many legions Caesar had crossed with, he then called forth another 2 legions from Gaul, and he began to recruit the local population to his army. And recruiting the local population was successful because much of it was pro-Caesar.
So Caesar was liked by the army because he led them to victory and riches, and the people liked him as well because he was a populist who gave benefits to the masses.
That's correct. Caesar began with a strategy of quick movements that scared the Senate and erratic movements that made it hard for Pompey to predict him. Pompey also had disadvantages in the form of less loyalty among his soldiers. Caesar had led his soldiers on a long, successful campaign. Pompey didn't quite have that, but even further beyond that, Pompey also had a divided army. Not all of it was under his control. Parts of it were controlled by the consuls or the Senate, a problem that manifested when the consul Domitius tried to take 3 of the legions to try to take on Caesar himself.
So Pompey and the Senate had the wealth to raise a larger army, but morale and loyalty were greater in Caesar's army.
Yes. And eventually Caesar managed to bottle Domitius up in the town of Corfinium, which the troops in Corfinium eventually surrendered against Domitius' orders, I might add, to Caesar. And this is because Caesar promised that he would allow them to join his side, and not only that, he followed through with his promise.
Interesting. So anytime a soldier defected, it meant that not only was Caesar's army strengthened, but Pompey's army was weakened, thus doubling the effect of these recruits.
Yep, and Pompey's army was so weakened that Pompey realized he was outmatched, and he evacuated the Senate from Rome and moved his army and the whole Roman government to Greece in order to recruit more troops and set up a proper plan, or at least try to set up a proper plan to defeat Caesar.
Wow, so now Pompey was on the run and went to Greece in an act of desperation.
Yes. However, Caesar did not pursue Pompey. Instead, he took advantage of the situation to conquer Hispania, which was mostly a quick and easy campaign, aside from the town of Massilia, but even that eventually gave in. Pompey and the Senate had disagreements that were continuing to cause problems. This time it was because Pompey wanted to use Fabian tactics against Caesar, whereas the Senate and most others in his army were not only impatient, but also demoralized, because they had lost Rome, and now they wanted a recapture of Italy.
And Fabian tactics that you mentioned, those are guerrilla-style tactics as opposed to the traditional Roman method of facing an enemy head-on.
Essentially, and you'll remember we first brought those up in our Punic War series, so that's kind of a tie back. Regardless, conflict did eventually start up again when Caesar managed to get past Pompey's naval blockade and cross into Greece. And this led to a very important battle, which, though it would technically take some time more to defeat Pompey, and even longer to finally crush all the senatorial forces, Caesar's absolute victory at the Battle of Pharsalus cemented not only the eventual end of the war, but who would be the winner of this war.
So Caesar was victorious on the battlefield and was now master of Rome. However, he still had enemies that would come after him outside of the field of battle, and that is something we'll explore in a future episode of the History Talks. We'll see you all then.